video popped up in my feed. Hi YouTube, hello there. We're gonna be recording this video because I needed someone to hold my hand for the monstrosities that are about to occur. I only watched a little bit of it, so I needed someone to have equally either good or bad takes about what makes a good Mario Kart level.
Hi, I'm the expert. I built every Mario Kart track from hand, all the way up from the bottom.
Hey,
you could rely on me today.
We just ended a Mario Kart session. I think our brains are pretty much like not smooth enough to at least like understand what makes a good or bad Mario Kart level.
I don't know about that. I'm pretty cool.
Okay, so yeah, this video came out like 2 days ago, and look at that, it's like 330,000 views already. Like holy smoke! Like it just popped up. That's how I saw it. But anyways, here the worst truck in every Mario Kart. Chat, let me know if you can hear it.
Alright, you know me. I don't like to waste time, so screw the bloated intros, let's just jump straight in. The only restriction I've placed on myself is that my pick for
chill, man. Your voice is too fast. Hold on.
SAIN with a classic 1.1 times speed. That's very interesting. Like very specific.
Yes. I need to cut corners in my daily intake of video consumption. So sometimes I go like 1.2 and 1.1. At least like the minimum is 1.1.
Sorry, I gotta call it out.
Track. Why? Yeah. I don't know, it just seemed too obvious, and those tracks are intentionally basic anyways. Also, this is another video that is not censored, so babies beware. Super Mario Kart had 20 tracks, which is pretty impressive until you realize that there are only 8 unique themes, including Rainbow Road. I mean, I get it. Super Mario Kart is literally half a megabyte in size, so they had to make the most of the limited storage space they had on that old-ass hardware. This also means that almost everything here is pretty dang similar, and most people will probably tell you that they're all bad without giving them a second thought. I'm personally not one of those people. I know this game is ugly as sin, but I'm actually sort of fond of...
Hot take, is this game ugly to you? Like, look at this picture. You're a lot younger than I am, apparently. I just learned that a little bit before this call.
So, okay, as someone who has swapped to retro content, my worldview is shifted on how games look. And I look at it in terms of the era. This game looks great for the time frame that it came out of. It's got everything that you need. Everything is very clearly designed. These tracks are good, except for like maybe Big Boo's Haunt, but that's the point of the level. So like, you know.
So is the audio crunchy, chat?
It was crunchy through Discord, but I thought it was just a Discord thing. So
okay, let me eliminate some tabs in here. So I feel like the thing that most people probably don't know, and I don't know this gamer here on YouTube knows, is that this game was built for like CRT TV. So what you're looking at right now, it may be way too saturated and pixelated. Even back then, it did look a little bit odd and nauseating for some people, but I thought it was great. You know, I thought the aesthetic was like vibrant enough for me to enjoy it.
Yeah, like people, when they see what's in front of them, they don't really see through a lens of like what it was supposed to look like. So opinion disregarded. I put a stamp down on the table. That's our first disregarded opinion.
maybe. So chat, is the audio fixed right now? Let me know. People need more whimsy and less ray tracing. Graphics does not make a better game, but I'm gonna sound hipster when I say that. Just saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Some of these layouts, at least how they are in some of the more recent games with some of the more modern controls. But there are 3 that stand out as being particularly bad in my eyes. Vanilla Lake 1, Donut Plains 3, and Koopa Beach 2. Vanilla Lake 1 is just sort of obnoxious with those bouncy ice blocks everywhere, to be honest. They're used again in Vanilla Lake 2, but they're much easier to avoid in that one. Then you got Koopa Beach 2, which just feels sloppily designed with so much unused space. Like what the fuck is this? Why does this part of the track exist? There's nothing here. And finally, there's Donut Plains 3, which is the only track in Mario Kart history where it is mandatory that you bunny hop to clear this broken bridge. Super isn't exactly my childhood Mario Kart or anything. That honor would go to Double Dash and DS, given Super came out several years before I was even conceived. But you know, I did first play this at a young age, and I can tell you my experience as a child who played this. Well, it basically looked like this. I didn't know how the bunny hop,
Skill
it's not
issue.
a crucial mechanic in the
Yeah.
original, is not required at any other point. I thought the only way to jump was with the feather, to be honest. And also, if the button wasn't on the face of the controller, it might as well not even existed. Honestly, there must have just been like one day where I tilted the controller and was just like, what the fuck are those?
This is the kind of
skill
person.
issue.
That's a skill issue. I'm gonna rant at the gamer on the screen, be like, oh, actually, even when I was a kid, I knew that if you hold like the B button and then press the A button, you can run and jump. That's like my biggest pet peeve when I see someone playing a game like Mario for the first time. I'm like, oh, if you know that if you hold the button, you can run. Yeah, but then how can I jump at the same time? I just press the other button, just like slide your finger. And I have to like manually like, just grab the person's hand to like let them know like, hey, this is how you can do it. You can actually like hold the B button and then press the jump button at the same time. That is like physically impossible. It's like, you're not a gamer. Get out of my house.
You gotta learn how to roll. You gotta roll your thumb. That's like gamer technique 101.
Yeah.
They teach you that out of elementary school. Like that's the first thing you learn.
Of course. Someone said like, shut up, woman. You didn't know that at first. I did. I was like, I immediately, when I saw this trap, I was like, oh yeah, you have to jump there. Maybe the first time it caught me, but I'm like, oh yeah, I quickly learned. And then this person be like, oh, this is infinitely difficult. What?
It's called a skill issue, but this is a kid's game, and as someone who played this as a kid, I can tell you this game did not convey whatsoever what to do here. In fact, it wasn't until I played this game again much later did I finally realize what you had to do. But for this alone, Donut Plains 3 has got to be my pick. I should mention that this track returned in Mario Kart 8 and was remade pretty well. Bunny hopping is no longer required as the new version intentionally guides you into the water. The irony being that drifting is a much more refined and obvious mechanic in the newer games. I mean, in the more recent games, there's rarely a time where you aren't drifting, so they could probably get away from mandatory bunny hop in a new track if they really wanted to.
Mac.
I shake my head.
I didn't grow up with a 64, so I have very little nostalgia for the console and even less for Mario Kart 64 specifically. Even that being the case, I gotta say, I think this game gets a much worse reputation than it likely deserves. Believe me when—
I guess, okay, before we continue with the Mario Kart 64, to be fair, what would you consider is the worst level in the Super Nintendo Mario Kart if you played it? Or if you can remember?
It personally, for me, I don't know if it's called Big Boo's Haunt in SNES, but that I think is by far the worst level.
That's a good, yeah, that's fair. It's kind of boring.
I actually think that every Boo level is bad, and actually in this game, for 64 specifically, I would also say that's the worst level in the entire game. Yeah.
I don't remember how it looked like. Let me see if I can see it.
When I say there are some haters for this game, I personally think it's fine. The track selection isn't great, but I also think there's a lot more than just one good track in the game, which is an opinion I've unironically heard from people over Discord. Part of me kind of wants to put Calamari Desert on here since it's a track that asks you to, in the middle of the race, come to a complete stop and then wait for this train to pass. That's such an iconic and outlandish part of the track, though I almost kind of admire it. At the very least, I think Mario Kart 7 had the right idea by keeping the train, but adding jumps to the side you can take if you knew the train was coming. I know people hate 64's rendition of Rainbow Road since it's 10,000 miles long and is railed start to finish. I sort of don't want to pick it for the same reason as Calamari Desert, however. The look and the overall vibe, especially if that great song, is so iconic. Also, the chain chomps eating through the track are funny. As an aside, have you ever seen those dumbass Rainbow Road memes before about how you always fall off? I swear every fucking time they use a pic from the 64 version and it's like, bitch, you literally chose a picture of the only Rainbow Road you can't fall off. Not having much reverence for this entry, just in general really, I started asking around what other people thought, and I had one friend mention Wario Stadium, which honestly never even crossed my mind as a contender, but the more I thought about it, yeah, Wario Stadium kind of is a lame track, isn't it? Seriously, when it was brought up, I kind of wanted to reject the idea, but yeah, I think they're right. I mean, the whole reason I wanted to exclude circuit tracks is because oftentimes there's nothing that really makes them unique. Intentionally so, of course, but that's also why I think they're easy targets. As much hate as Mario Kart 64 might get, I'd still argue that every single track has at least one thing that makes it unique. Even if it's like small stuff like multi-moles you need to avoid in Moo Moo Farm, exploding snowmen in Frappe Snowland, I don't know, the giant chocolate balls falling down in Choco Mountain. What does Wario Stadium have going for it? It's length. It's not.
I have a personal gripe with Choco Mountain. Choco Mountain drives me insane.
There's a part where you fall and then you get like so behind instantly because you're like at the top running. That's like so punishing for everybody.
Yeah.
If you're playing
Also-
standard, yeah, that's very punishing. Go on.
It's like, come on, like, but sometimes it's not even your fault. You'll get hit by a green shell, and green shells in that game launch you for years, and you'll just fall off. And it's like, oh yeah, race over. I lost. It's done.
or the speed of or if there's a heavy character speeding, they can like toss you like a salad.
Yeah.
In this game, like it was infamous for like if a big character had like a mushroom, that was a hazard. That was like a new power up for the heavy characters.
Yep. But outside of the one exploit you can do if you know it, I don't think it's a terrible level, but it is infuriating.
What do you think about Wario? This person's gonna pick Wario Stadium as like their worst.
So
They're gonna pick Wario Stadium.
It seems like they're picking it based on how bland it is. I think that's like their criteria is the blandness.
Yeah. There's also very exploited. Oh my god, give me 1 second here. I got rated by Necro. Crony. Oh my goodness gracious. What the heck? Welcome in, Raiders. How's it going, everybody? I know we're in the middle of a video that we're doing, but holy smokes, I just want to say thank you so much to Crony for the damn raid. Thank you so much. I hope you had a wonderful time in your stream. Welcome in, Raiders. My name is Sain. I'm a cybernetic VTuber interviewer, and I also do commentary videos, and sometimes we play some games. Yeah, we were just watching this video, so yeah, everybody, hope you have fun today. Thank you for the follow, Little Jetsy and Kyle the dog lover. Ayo.
Dog?
No,
So
no. Sorry, I'm gonna burn you right here. Oh my god. Oh, I have a German Shepherd who I love. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. But anyways, let's continue with the video. Thank you, Crony. Hope you had a wonderful time.
It's track at 64, so it doesn't even have that. The music isn't unique. In fact, this song is using a quarter of the tracks. The layout itself isn't interesting. I mean, look at this minimap. The whole thing is comprised of straightaways and 90-degree turns in this uninteresting uniform manner, almost as if this track was made in some primitive level editor. Except Bike 64. There's a ramp that jumps you over a previous segment, but let's be honest, DK Parkway did it better. And then there's that one skip where you jump over the wall, but there's likewise...
That's like the controversial part about this level. Like, oh my god. Call Crony a worm? Why? I would still love Crony if they were a worm.
You're a worm.
You're a worm. Oh, but I think, you know what? I kind of low-key that Crony would love that, actually. Crony is a worm? Okay, fine then. Crony is a worm! Crony is a worm! There we go. Oh, well, yeah, shortcuts. Are they evil or not evil in this game?
The Wario Stadium one, it also has the same Chaco Mountain problem, where if you fall in the gap, you restart the whole thing. I agree with this take. I think I can agree with the
Wario Stadium.
Wario being the worst. Personally, no, but I can see where the opinion is. So
yeah, shortcuts are part of the game. That's a hot take, but sure.
Much cooler skips in other 64 tracks. I don't mind simple tracks, but this one sort of just goes on and on.
Do it.
And without the unique music or the abstract theming of something like Rainbow Road, I think the length on this one is much less excusable.
I missed.
I gotta be honest, this is probably the Mario Kart I am the least familiar with since I didn't play it until, I think, years even after Wii was out. As far as the tracks go, the ones I even remotely remember was Lakeside Park, which is a solid track with a super ballsy skip. Rainbow Road, which I unironically think is one of the best Rainbow Roads in the series. Not even joking.
Gosh.
And Cheeseland, because it's a track that's literally called Cheeseland. I remember Sky Garden as well, but it's mostly only because of its inclusion in DS. Otherwise, I don't really have any strong opinions on any of these. I think they're fine. Everyone seems to have a hate boner for Snowland though, and I feel obligated to include it for that screen shake alone. Like what?
Oh my god, like, it was meant for the Game Boy Advance.
So much on this level. Like who thought this was okay? And also, yeah, this track doesn't really have anything else going for it, so it's got to be my pick. Starting with DS, I want to also talk about the worst retro track in each game, which is why I'm here to say Super Circuit does not have retro tracks. It has every track from Super Nintendo, yes, and I do think it's fair to say the idea of retro tracks started here, but to claim Super Circuit has what what we now refer to as retro tracks, ever since DS anyway,
Yeah,
is
so
a
satisfying.
false claim, and I want to take this time to disprove it, especially since people saying Super Circuit was the very first game with retro tracks is very misleading, and yet it's still an actually I hear all the time. But if you're already on my side or don't want to hear why they don't count, skip to about 950. Let's go down the list.
Oh my gosh. So okay, speaking of like this Mario Kart list specifically, did you play that one, the Game Boy Advance one?
No, that was one I did not get the chance to play.
So I have a history with that game because it was a part of my life where I was like extremely sick, going to the hospital, getting too many like head surgery related things, and it was like a gift that was like given to me by my family, so you can play the Game Boy Advance on the way. So I did play a lot of it, like a shit ton of it, while I was in many hospital visits, and it was fun. I thought it was better than the Super Nintendo Mario Kart, honestly. But I feel like maybe because of the the limitations of the screen, I always wish it was bigger. But then later, eventually, like they made a Game Boy. They made a Game Boy Advance like player for the consoles, but it was for the GameCube. Many years later, unfortunately, I would have loved that. I saw, but still, but in the big screen, it didn't look as well either. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird game. I admire some things about it, but now playing it, it's kind of clunky. It was what it was.
Is the snow level shaking a requirement? Is that what happens? Is that?
No, I think it was just like a limitations of the console. But this person is recording it on like a PC, so I don't remember exactly if it shaked or not.
Starting with DS, in every Mario Kart since, what do we know about retro tracks? 1. Especially on menus, they are handled and presented no differently than anything else in the game. They are displayed right alongside the other cups from the get-go, all have unique cup names as you would expect from any other cup since they are more or less, at least treated as equals of no differences. Whether it's a retro cup or not, you have a unique cup with a set of 4 tracks, typically sharing the same length as well as a 3-lap or 3-checkpoint structure as is the standard. 2. They are not one-to-one recreations from the originals. Oftentimes they will have small changes, things added or removed, even tracks that we think are one-to-one. Let's take Donut Plains from DS for example. Same layout, right? Well, more or less, but not exactly. There's some small changes, like the diagonal blocks we see here do not exist in the original, and of course in Super the tracks were so small they all made you do 5 laps. Not here. Everything is sized up to be more proportional with the new stuff, and are all now 3 laps as a result. Given the original was on a 2D plane, entirely tile-based, and the new games are all 3D, it's basically impossible to have an exact one-to-one recreation. Hell, in the new games, they go all out with the idea of these not being one-to-one. And the fun now is always being like, oh man, what did they do this time to shake up this classic? And finally, 3. Retro Cups only encompass a specific set of maps. As to say, the development team made a deliberate decision as to what should come back. They picked and chose certain maps and left the rest out. Not only that, but it's always a mix of different tracks from different entries all compiled into a single cup. These 3 things have remained true in DS, Wii, 7, and 8, and is what we think of and know today as retro tracks. Now let's take a step back and compare these 3 things to Super Circuit. 1. The SNES tracks are handled differently from the others. In Mario Kart Super Circuit, the cups of the SNES tracks are referred to as extra cups, are not presented of the other cups. In fact, they're secrets, and you have to unlock them by getting 100 coins in the equivalent cup. An unlock requirement unique to the SNES tracks, and it also means you do not start with any of them. None of them are treated like individual unique cups with unique names either, and just recycle the cup names from the main cups. In other words, these cups are definitely not treated as equals. If all that I just listed wasn't enough to drive that home, it should also be noted that unlike the 3-lap structure of every track in the main game,
I like the background.
Super Nintendo tracks retain the small size they originally did, and Super Circuit instead makes every track 5 laps like they used to have.
There's
for compensation.
something, I'm so nostalgic about this era of like the Game Boy Advance. Did you ever play Golden Sun?
No, that's actually on my list of games to go back and play.
Ooh, I don't know if you're gonna. I hope you experience it the same way that I experienced it back then. I love Golden Sun. I'm a big sucker for like this pixelated, like, wallpaper art on the background. It's so nice, at least to me. I have a big appeal to it.
The parallaxing where it moves with how you look at things. Yeah.
That's every battle in Golden Sun, by the way. Every battle is gonna have like this side effect. They were like flexing the technology of the Game Boy Advance by doing this every time.
Two, the layouts of these tracks are exact
look at how 3D
1-to-1
we can get.
recreations. Super Circuit, much like the
Better than
original
Super
game, also
Nintendo.
used a 2D tile-based system for all the tracks, so unlike the new games, it actually has the capability to be 1-to-1 recreations. But surely they can't be exactly 1-to-1, right? Well, here's a sprite map of Donut Plains 2 on Super Nintendo, and now here's Donut Plains 2 on GBA. Yeah, that's right. Exactly the same, down to the fucking tile. Even the color choice of each block is 1-to-1 exact as it was in the original. Hell, even all of these bushes are in the same exact places. And finally, 3. Unlike how we know the retro tracks to be today, these are not a handpicked selection of tracks from multiple titles. Every repeated cup is nothing but super tracks, and it's all of them. All 20. Every last one. Was that enough of a case? Again, I think it's fair to say the idea for retro tracks started in Super Circuit, but retro tracks, at least
spent way too much time explaining what a retro track is, though.
They started in Super
Yeah.
Circuit is blatantly
I mean,
just
I get
false.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of it, so stop. No more. Bad. No.
You do realize the track you complain about in Super Mario Kart is a single track they actually changed, right?
Wait, what? You know what I was
Classic.
saying about Double Dash
Yeah.
recently? And their unironic pick for the worst track in this game was Dino Jungle. It's okay, they're not alive
Double
anymore.
Dash?
Was it not for my self-inflicted restriction of no circuit tracks? I would just say the worst track on here is Mario Circuit and call it a day, considering there's nothing unique to that course. Not even the Chain Chomp, since that was in the opening track of the game. I'm sure people would think Baby Park would be the next runner-up, but I want to talk about this now because Baby Park may or may not appear later, so I want to cover it in this game. So a kart racer is more than just its tracks, right? It's also its mechanics, its engine, you know, how the game feels to control. Just because you have a good track design on paper doesn't mean it will automatically be fun to race on. You also have to take into consideration the game you are designing the track for. It's why people will lose their mind talking about how terrible every track in X game is, but then when it's brought back in another game with slight tweaks, they go, yeah, you know, this track is actually pretty sweet. And it's why, even for this list, Baby Park included, the same exact track can be great in one game but suck in the next. And it has less to do with the track and more to do with the game itself. Baby Park is a track where items, their usage and variety, takes precedence over the layout itself.
This is what I
also
told
why
you
Baby
from
Park is a track that is perfectly
when we were
complemented
playing.
by Double Dash's mechanics, and Double Dash specifically, mind you. Double Dash is a game where items are everywhere. They're given out at a much higher frequency in comparison to past games, and with a much greater variety than most other Mario Karts, period. When I, or anyone else for that matter, thinks of Baby Park on GameCube, they think of items flying everywhere. The fireballs, giant bananas, bombs, chain chomps, that giant Bowser shell that could go through the center, which is an important distinction that is completely irrelevant to the
That
games
was
that brought this
chaotic as
track
hell.
back. In Mario Kart DS
I love this
R8,
track.
your side is basically the only side you need to worry about, but here on Double Dash, because items like the Bowser shell can pass through the center, you need to be fully aware of all your surroundings, which makes for a playthrough with a lot more going on at any given time. And most importantly, this. Here's what an
Yeah, it's
item
about the
knockout
mechanics.
looks like in Double Dash. And here's what it's looked like in every game since. Items can just completely kill your speed in the modern entries. I'm not here to argue whether this change is good or bad, but when a track like Baby Park is putting items center stage, it can just feel bad, honestly. If in, say, Mario Kart 8, you had just as many crazy items and they could pass through the center like they could in Double Dash, it would be terrible, because that game isn't designed to be as chaotic, which is fine. I love Mario Kart 8, but all of that is a distinction to be made.
That was like
Chaos
that
and
Bowser
how
ate like
Life is
like-
pain.
and Double Dash is why
I saw
Baby Park
that.
was such an
That
iconic
Bowser
was
when
me.
it first dropped,
Bombs.
and why it hasn't been
That was
really
me.
as good
That was
ever
me
since.
doing that scream.
So my pick for the worst track in Double Dash is not Baby Park, it's Waluigi Stadium. Hot damn controversial pick, I know. But much like how I think Baby
This
Park
is
has
where-
been done worse in
Yeah, we
subsequent
can-
games, I
this
think
is where the
Waluigi
bad
Stadium
take
was
starts.
done better. Almost immediately better too, since the very next console release, we featured it as a retro track, and it's all right there. I generally prefer Double Dash's game feel to Wii's, but the addition of the trick system in Wii was absolutely genius, and I think it completely validates
like
the
the
numerous jumps in
Waluigi.
Waluigi Stadium. In previous games,
Yeah,
such
Waluigi
as Double Dash,
is
the
great
whoops
in
and
Double
tracks like
Dash.
this, and yes, these are actually called whoops.
It wasn't
yeah, I used to
like
run
a-
across when I was
everything.
younger, what of it? But all they really did was bounce you in the air, slowing you down, and making you lose temporary control of your vehicle. The trick system alone, I think, makes all these bumps, and this track as a
Yeah.
result, a lot more engaging. And then in Mario Kart Tour and 8, I think they knocked it out of the park with these half pipes and the alternate routes that half pipes lead to. Phenomenal track in 8 specifically. Otherwise, many of my critiques I directed at 64 64's Wario Stadium, like every corner being made up of 90-degree turns, is also applicable to Waluigi Stadium. Waluigi Stadium is a much more interesting track by comparison, I'd argue, but hey, I had to do something.
This music is so nostalgic, though.
Oh yeah.
This pixel art. This pixel. What were you gonna say?
I think that in my opinion for Double Dash, I think the worst level is Daisy Cruiser in that game, specifically in Double Dash.
Do I like Daisy? Oh no, come on.
I don't like Daisy Cruiser because I think it's a mess. It's not that fun to navigate. It's not that great of a level.
Oh my gosh!
You can hit me with a bad take. You know, like if you gotta kick me off the show, I get it. But
oh no, you know what? You know that's not as bad as a take as my next take with this artwork. I don't know what is it about this specific rendition of Mario and like Peach. They're so, I don't know.
Hey, motherfucker, you're looking at me weird.
There's something wrong about it. It's got like some bad edgy energy from like the 2010s like attitude era or whatever you want to call it. But the energy that this Mario is giving me, it's like so negative. This Mario is about to call me every edgy word from the internet back in the day.
You think I'm a funny? I'm not going to bitch up.
This is the same Mario that was promoting tattoos on. No, it is. It's true. There was a promotion for like Super Mario tattoos for the game for the DS or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my! Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So it's this render because they try to be edgy like super. I don't know what happened with Nintendo. They at some point they try to be really edgy. I just said that.
Once you're done with your race here, go on over to my tattoo parlor. and then Peach is like, "Hello, I am here."
There's like the most. This is when MTV was like thriving and like the internet era was starting to like take action. So they didn't know what the hell to do with anything. And for some reason, I don't know why Donkey Kong looks like he's holding a gun to his head on the top left. Also, we had Rob. They're not bringing back Rob. Rob was here.
I actually really love Mario Kart DS. I think it's a great game, but now that you're pointing out all the pixel sprites, I can't unsee the DK now with the gun to his head.
It's so Donkey Kong had another life. That's because Donkey Kong is aware that there's gonna be Donkey Kong Eraser happening in the Switch too. Nintendo's removing. Nintendo is ending Donkey Kong's life soon. Okay, let's keep watching.
Mario Kart DS, the game with 7 circuit tracks.
What were they thinking?
So there we have a good chunk
There's
of
only
tracks
7. I never bought this game. I only play at parties.
Rule. I mean, I
someone
never
share
even
one
dare
cartridge.
putting a track
I could
like
only play
Yoshi's
as a shy guy
like this, but the lack of
the download play.
8 circuit gets is criminal and needs to be amended someday. In my head, I thought DS had a pretty weak track selection, but at least looking at the new stuff, I think most of these are alright. Shout out to DS's Wario Stadium for being the best stadium map we had seen up to this point. Yoshi Falls is the track I ended up picking for this list.
He doesn't make up that level almost feels identical to Waluigi Stadium. What was so different? Yeah. Who hurt you during the Wii era? I don't think this person had a time during the Wii era.
I did try to cut the Mushroom Cup tracks in Slack because you know, they're the first ones you see.
He
so
said bro thinks he's on the team.
Look, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. If you had a bad time of your life during a certain release of a certain game, you may not enjoy it or remember as well. Then don't let that cloud your judgment, please. Never do.
But I mean, what do I even say about Yoshi Falls? Ironically, if you were to find someone who likes this track, I think they likewise wouldn't even be able to tell you what they liked about it outside maybe the presentation. I think the most interesting thing Yoshi Falls does is have some items being carried down by water, which is like saying Wisconsin is a fun place to be because it has Aldo, Leopold, Shack, and Farm. What? There it is! The pride and joy of their state. Okay, what the fuck is this? So I just like, this was unironically a result when I googled Wisconsin landmarks. You think I'm the first person to say Aldo, Leopold, Shack, and Farm this week? Mario Kart DS was also the first game of retro tracks. Yeah, that's right, screw you, Super Circuit. And we already talked about my pick. It's Baby
This man has a
I
hate for
already
Super.
explained why it's here in the last segment.
No.
DS might be the worst this track has ever been, actually. Items are pretty tame in DS by comparison, and even on 150cc, that frantic energy seen in Double Dash is just entirely gone. Based on the other tracks I decided...
Damn, the console on the emulator is not doing this game justice. I remember it being prettier. What is this muddy, pixelated 3D stuff happening in here? There's so much artifact thing happening everywhere. It's bleeding too.
It's blown up because he's got to fit it in the screen, right? Like,
yeah.
But the DS is a pretty small console. Like it's not as big as or at least the DS originally. So like this is expected when you blow it up to this size. So I don't blame him. I would have made it smaller personally because you got to get that feel. You got to be leaning in and squinting in order to play this game.
That's only his frame of reference, unfortunately.
Bring back for the retro stuff. I'm almost positive they just picked this because it was hands down the easiest track to recreate. Mario Kart Wii. Until 8 Deluxe came out and just like manifested itself inside of every household. What, you're the one person who thinks they don't have a copy of Mario Kart 8? Check between your couch cushions, I'm sure you'll find it. As for Wii, it's fine. Those familiar with my older videos will recall that while Wii isn't my favorite or anything, I still think it has one of the most solid selection of tracks in the entire series, across both modern and retro. I might put Moo Moo Meadows on here, was it not for the fact that I have a friend that I think would literally kill me if I did. I have ranked the Wii tracks in the past, and I placed Grumble Volcano pretty dang low originally. Looking back, while I'm not a huge fan of this one, I do think I did it a little dirty. It's not nearly as rough as I made it out to be. I can never get a concrete opinion of what the Mario Kart community thinks of the traffic maps in these games. Opinions seem to be pretty mixed, but honestly, I've never been a fan of Moonview Highway in particular, so that's gotta be my pick. For a track in the last cup of the game, its layout is pretty rudimentary. When you think of the final track layouts in any other Mario Kart games, you're typically looking at something like this, or this, but then you look at Moonview Highway and it's like, I mean, there are Mushroom Cup tracks have more interesting layouts than this. Speaking of which, that's another issue I have with this one. The difficulty spread is not consistent at all. The track starts out pretty tricky actually, as it should. A narrow 2-lane road and some decently tight turns. Then you get into the city and it's just like, drive straight, make a soft turn, and avoid very easy to dodge traffic now that the track has been opened up twofold. The only other tricky part is the tunnel, which is tricky for the wrong reasons. Depending on what angle you take this, it's actually a bit of a blind turn when it comes to oncoming traffic. I mean, this isn't Double Dash where you gotta lean into the traffic and really quickly maneuver around obstacles. And the steering is much more deliberate and gradual, so when traffic is flying at you this fast, it's like, good luck, idiot.
I agree with him, actually. I think I agree with him.
You do?
I do think that this is one of the weakest tracks in the game.
Probably, yeah. I think that one curve right there, like it's I feel like, I don't know if he's completely evaluating the items, because I feel like some of the imagine having a start and blowing through the cars. That feels so powerful.
Yeah.
Like that element, like, you know, give it credit too, please. If you're gonna hit a level, like, at least there's parts of it that is like, oh yeah, this level benefits a lot from that, and it's like, that's actually a cool element.
Falls returns as a retro track.
Yeah, if you're gonna hate it my way.
Twice, so instead, let's talk about Shy Guy Beach, which might honestly be the weakest beach map in the series next to Super's Koopa Beach 2. Okay, seriously, what is up with this dead end? As far as turns you actually need to take, Shy Guy Beach is literally just a square. Don't let this shaky mini map that looks like it was doodled by an elderly man with Trevor's fool. You're just driving straight here. My favorite Mario Kart tracks are the ones where you can basically drift the whole time start to finish. I mean, drifting in of itself is basically half the meta of the series. Shy Guy Beach is a track where you can't really do that though. Also, the cannonballs and the crabs are really annoying.
skill issue.
Mario Kart 7 is Mario Kart 7. Yeah, honestly, I don't really know what to say about this one. By the time I played this one, Mario Kart 8 was already out. I've reviewed it since and really enjoyed what I played, honestly. I would describe the gameplay as a lesser 8, but in regards to the topic of this video, the actual track selection is just as solid, if not more so than Wii's, which is saying a lot. There's some good shit here. Looking into what others thought, and maybe it's just because I'm that weird guy that generally likes the ice-themed stages, but I was actually shocked to see how many Rosalina's Ice World haters there are. To be fair, I don't really care about it in the Booster Course DLC. Terrible camera angles, pointless half-pipes, pathing that doesn't look like it's going to slow you down, but it does, and most tragically, the deep moody colors were also removed. A bad interpretation, but I think it's fine enough in its original iteration. I feel pretty bad because I typically love the beach maps, and I feel like I've been throwing a lot of shade at them in this video, but of 7's new tracks, Cheap Lagoon has got to be the weakest, which to be fair is more of a water map than a beach map, which in some parts I suppose would explain how underwhelming it is. Between 7's new glider and the underwater racing, I think the versatility the glider provides is much more interesting. And Cheap Lagoon is a perfect example as to why.
You don't get that in 8.
Things are just slower and sloppier, and I feel dirty saying that. Ironically, the most interesting thing in this map is the glider segment where you avoid the water. Speaking of the glider segment being the most interesting part of the track, Bowser's Castle 1 is the retro pick for 7. I generally love the Bowser's Castle maps, but half of this track is just driving straight. I like the portions of all the thwomps, and it's not even a terrible track, truth be told, but it's definitely the weakest Bowser's Castle from GBA and the weakest retro track in 7 when ignoring the circuit stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
What the fuck, Luigi? This isn't even your game. Mario Kart 8. My, and statistically speaking, your favorite Mario Kart. Between 8 and Deluxe, we have 96 different tracks.
This is technically the best Mario Kart, honestly.
Into new, retro, Wii U DLC, and
I have
Deluxe
a little bit
DLC.
of a soft spot in my heart
but
for
coming off
Wii.
7, I don't think the selection of new tracks is nearly as strong. Besides
Me for Double Dash,
I don't really care for anything.
I don't have a boner for Double Dash all the time.
50% underwater, and also has this turn right here where you get snagged on this damn guardrail.
Hipster Sloth, Double Dash.
Star Cup. Okay, Star Cup is actually really solid. Then Bone Dry Dunes. Might be weird to say, but the thing that ruins this track for me are the bumps on the turns. Wavy turns seriously might be one of my least favorite things in all of Mario Kart. Losing control while trying to fine-tune a drift is exceedingly obnoxious. Obnoxious, but not boring, which is what Water Park is. Holy shit, what a wasted opportunity. I mean, it's a water park that actually goes underwater. That sounds amazing. So how did they fuck it up so bad? I swear half of this track is literally just this one turn so soft you take it half asleep. A track themed around driving in an amusement park is such an awesome idea that I seriously hope they take another stab at someday. Really looking at what we got here, I think I actually like the retro selection 8 more than I like the nitro stuff. Up first in the series, at least for me. I mean, Moo Moo Meadows went from being Moo Moo Meadows to being one of my favorite tracks in 8. Gliding off this new cliff and then barely hitting this ramp so you could get the boost while still holding onto your glider is so satisfying. Every track that I was not a fan of for its original counterpart got some really solid updates. Dry Desert, sort of just a basic desert track. They added an oasis, making for an actually decent water segment in a track. Sherbet Land, same deal. It was kind of just a basic ice map. Well, now the holes in the ice rink that used to lead to your death now lead to alternate paths. Also, it's absolutely gorgeous now. Of the 16 here, I guess I'd say Toad's Turnpike is the worst, but even that track got some cool updates, like letting you glide above the overpass or drive on the walls of the highway. Although I don't think it was quite enough. This is a traffic map where the road is way too wide and the vehicles are way too easy to dodge, especially compared to the original. So not too long after the launch of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, they dropped a total of 16 tracks and a $12 expansion that included some other extra content like characters and vehicle parts. Also, 200cc, which has since become my favorite way to play, and if it was up to me, would be a mandatory inclusion in every future release. There are some gorgeous stuff in the DLC. I mean, you can really tell that they cared, but effort doesn't always equate to greatness. They did a great job making Baby Park look really polished, sure, but it's still a lesser version mechanically than it was on GameCube. It's pretty indefensible, to be honest. You know what track I despise though? Excite Bike Arena.
Here it is.
Okay.
Here it is.
Here it is.
It's baiting. This person is baiting.
Because I'm not here to make people feel bad for liking something, but at the same time, it blows my mind how many hardcore fans this one has. I also think it's bizarre that, seemingly, Excite Bike Arena's biggest fans hate Baby Park. They look at this minimap and go,
not true.
Sick, gross. jumps. Then they look at the Excite Bike minimap and go, all right, now there's a layout. It is
That's a good joke,
literally
though.
just another
That's a
take
good
on
joke.
the Baby Park layout, except you waggle the controller like a doofus the whole time since it's nothing but a straight row of jumps. Yes, you can also press R to trick, but if you want to make sure you maximize the amount of tricks you're executing here, get ready for a whole lot of this. To be fair, the music,
Don't play with the
phenomenal. It's a
Joy-Cons.
pretty rad remix of the Excite Bike theme. The jump patterns picking from a random assortment every time you race, also very cool. Plus, this track just looks great with the angular jumps. They really capture the look of the original game, but that doesn't change the fact that this, what
Opinion
is
so
on the
bad that
screen
Raven has
right now,
hatred.
this is the track.
Someone with
I
inner
hate
hatred.
too, but why is this junk food held in such high regard? I sure do love driving straight and going. The one thing that made Baby Park an even remotely interesting track, the item meta, is basically non-existent here. Items like green shells, fireballs, boomerangs, hell, even the bananas to an extent, are compromised significantly when these things are bound to the ground, and the people that you need to hit are in the air for half the race. In a map like Baby Park,
Oh my
you can
gosh.
feasibly bounce a green shell off a wall and hit a player. In Excite Bike, that just isn't going to happen because not only will it likely move under your targets, but the walls of these jumps basically just trap floor-bound items in these grass pockets on
Skill
the side.
issue.
All of that
Skill
alongside the faster
issue.
speed.
Yeah.
This is a track where the item
Skill
feels very
issue.
lopsided. Items that were already
I'm
good,
sorry,
like
that's a
red
skill
shells or
issue.
lightning, become some of the only items you feel you can really use, and items that already weren't great, such as the aforementioned fireballs or boomerang, are made even worse. The disparity between a green shell
Imagine
and a red
having
shell
to
never
wait to
felt
aim,
bigger.
just
In
throw the
Baby
damn
Park,
thing.
where the items are being emphasized, that track
like-
will inevitably only be as
I don't know,
good
maybe-
as the
maybe
item
some
meta
people
is
don't know
for
this.
said game. Again,
What?
it's why it's a
But
blast to play in Double Dash. and
tricking in Mario Kart 8 is like really important to the way the game is played. And you're not supposed to trick off of every jump in Excite Bike Arena. Like that's
No, you're
not.
not. Yeah, you know.
You're supposed to hit them as you're coming down, not go over a jump so fast that you hit the jump like you're just slamming into it.
Yeah.
So
There's
there
a
is
bit- There's
strategy.
a bit of, yeah,
and
there is. Thank you for pointing it out like it damn is. Oh my god, this person doesn't know that, or maybe they do and they're just raging. They're not raging, you know, they're baiting. They're baiting. They're masturbating.
if the layout changes, right?
Yeah, it's randomized too. You gotta be ready for
Every
it.
time it changes, you have to adapt to it. That's like that's the strategy. That's the fun part about it.
It's almost like it's inspired by the game that it's supposed to be part of, which is kind
Yeah,
of
Baby
iconic
Park-
by itself. No,
Baby Park
no.
is okay. I won't say anything. I won't keep my-
Excite Bike. I'm talking about Excite Bike. It's the level is made from inspired by the mechanics of the game. You don't have to you don't have to make a trick all the time. You have to make sure that you land the trick well and dash from there. But what about the Baby Park?
No, I was just gonna say, Baby Park comparatively, I think is the worst of the two. I don't know if I would necessarily say Baby Park
Layout
is the worst in the
wise,
game.
without considering game mechanics, probably, because there's like nothing. It's just a circle, but it's a circle with like things that are going to make the items like flow through in a specific way. It's about the item meta. It's clearly built with that intention. That's where the chaotic element goes in there. But but the layout of the level from Excite Bike, it may look simple on the surface, but there's an entire mechanic related to like not boosting all the time. You're not gonna get momentum. In fact, you may actually slower your momentum if you hit a dash where you're not supposed to. You're supposed to look ahead, like a damn motorcycle, like hopping on an actual track. So it's like it throws you. If anything, it's actually kind of like an entirely new mechanic for what Mario Kart is supposed to be. But this person making the joke,
skill issue.
skill issue.
else. Likewise, in Excite Bike Arena, where jumps and tricks are being emphasized, this track will only ever be as good as the trick system in said game, or this game. I mean, the item meta on this one is de-emphasized. The drifting is nearly non-existent since, you're just driving in a straight line, and it's not like snaking is a thing anymore. So Excite Bike Arena is basically placing all of its chips in on.
Also, that this is also another pet peeve. You just talk about like the drifting. Yes, there are no like a lot of curves. There are two sharp turns or not so sharp, depending on the position of the ramps. You're gonna learn the hard way if taking the sharp turn is the worst thing you can ever do, or taking it the long way. So you got to be ready for that too. It depends on the layout, or depending on also what kind of item you may have or what's going on around. So there is like things to be aware of that this person is not even highlighting, or maybe they will. Let me give them some time.
On the trick system. That being said, the trick system in Mario Kart is very shallow, which is usually fine. It's intuitive and easy to implement, which is why it's such a great minor addition to so many tracks. Just a little something extra to add a bit more engagement and round out a course. But the reality is that the time window is incredibly generous, especially when you waggle the controller, and the tricks themselves feel very scripted. It's mechanically very basic, which again is fine. It's just one part of the game. Stuff like items, or especially drifting, are much more important, and it's why they're often emphasized over the trick system, which again is otherwise normally treated like an extra little flourish. The bottom line though is that the trick system is not in depth enough to be solely relied on for an entire track's engagement, which is what Excitebike Arena attempts to do. Okay, this isn't Crash Team Racing, where the longer you are in the air, the bigger a boost you get, which, you know, makes the timing and more importantly the mechanic itself feel much more organic and strategic. Being airborne is also how you can maintain reserves for Sacred Fire in that game, but that's neither here nor there. The point is a track like Excitebike Arena might actually be pretty solid in CTR's engine, but this isn't CTR, it's Mario Kart. You waggle your remotes and get a fixed amount of boost when you land, which is why I don't even have to press a single button and can just go. The track's most interesting facet, the fact that the types of jumps are different every time you race, doesn't change the playing experience in a significant enough way to make this map interesting. In fact, in time trials, the pattern of jumps remains consistent for obvious reasons, and how you approach the map there doesn't change at.
Would it be too edgy if I go to the comment section and type skill issue?
Oh, you became a real robot.
No amount of randomization will ever take away from the fact that this is an oval with a bunch of bumps in a line. You could honestly pick the same seed for the jump RNG twice in a row, and people probably wouldn't even notice it was exactly the same as the last time they played. That's how incidental the feature is. It's nothing more than a feature you hear about and go, oh, that's neat. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be surprised if a lot of you watching didn't even know the jumps were randomized. And when the most interesting thing about your track simply does not even matter. Am I just crazy for not liking this map? I feel like I'm crazy. I gotta be crazy,
yes.
right? There
you
are
indeed
so
crazy.
many hardcore defenders of this track.
Verily.
What is going on?
That's the bait. That's the hook and switch.
There's nothing wrong with dumb fun, and I certainly don't want people to feel bad for liking something. In fact, if it makes anyone feel better, I should admit I'm one of those sickos that actually enjoyed playing Sonic Forces, even though that game is little more than boosting
in that
hallways.
one. And
it's
in
just
that level,
fun to feel like you're going
it's
fast.
randomly
It's nothing
generated.
to be ashamed of. In fact, I would wager that's why a lot of people also like Excitebike Arena. That being said, if I can be introspective enough to realize I enjoyed playing a poorly designed game because it felt cool, then I think it's only fair for the Excitebike enjoyers of the world to be modest enough to also admit, okay, this is dumb mindless fun and I'm okay with that. Holding this up on a pedestal like it's this
right,
misunderstood track with layers of strategic depth.
Listen, brother, listen,
Like,
his entire
it's
point.
not, okay? Y'all just being a bunch of silly whores. Alright, how about you say we wrap this thing up and make our last stop at the Booster Course DLC? I'm definitely not trying to reinforce the accusation that I'm a cynical asshole that hates everything, because I'm not.
You are,
I like
you are.
him.
You're like the big
soda.
Nintendo
That's something, but
YouTuber.
my
They
God.
hate
Looking
Nintendo
at
more
all
than
the Booster
anything.
Course tracks for this video
They
made
have
me
to.
feel
For
It, gets,
real.
it generates
There
clicks.
is some good stuff here, but
Quirky
there's also
Nintendo
so
YouTuber that
much
hates game.
dog shit. Like, damn. I may have spent 5 years talking about Excitebike, but that track is goated compared to some of the selection here. My no circuit tracks rule definitely let a decent amount of stuff make a clean escape out this video, but dude, Gold Cups Toad Circuit and Turnip Cups Mario Circuit 3. Just wow. I know the Booster Course Pass has some hardcore defenders, but I would actually be shocked to see anyone try to defend these two. But no circuit tracks means no circuit tracks, so what else do we got? Well, Tokyo Blur isn't particularly interesting, especially for a track of 3 different routes. Not terrible,
He
but
hates a
fairly
regular,
boring.
like, classic,
Sky Garden is a tempting choice just for how much I simplified it alone. Absolutely one of my
Just a
favorite
hater.
retros in DS. It
Yeah.
had a great layout and especially cool shortcuts. If you compare the layout to how it was in GBA and DS to how it returned later, and it's clear to see that it returned in name only. Not a god-awful track, but incredibly disrespectful if you ask me. Sky High Sunday I would probably describe as a worse version of Excitebike, which is weird to say because there's definitely a lot more going on at a glance, like blind jumps, anti-gravity blind jumps so you're slowly falling in the air for way too long, a needless use of anti-grav in general, making steering more slippery for no discernible
Yeah, no,
reason.
this level is like
rail
pain.
that you clip through.
Yeah,
We were just
I
complaining
about
think
it.
this is
I think this is the worst.
But the texture work is really flat here. These pink supports don't even look look like they were being affected by a lighting engine. London Loop, before playing all these for this video, I thought was a fine enough course, but there's a decent list of gaming sins here. In these tour tracks, you can't really rely on the minimap since it never updates, so you just have to react to what you see. That being the case, check this out. So here I am. There's a very clear path up ahead that looks like it veers to the left there, so
yeah, this is
bunny hop so I can drift left.
Yep.
And oh, that's nice.
Yep.
Giant red arrows appear.
I get hit by
after
this
I've
one
already committed
every
to the
time.
turn. I mean, even
Yeah.
without that blunder, I'm not really a fan of the tracks where the layout is so unintuitive. It feels like you're being guided by giant red
The map
arrows
is
the whole
such a
time instead of
suggestion.
naturally following a cohesive route. Then you got this jump that gives you next to no time to turn once you finally land. A lot of weirdly angled sidewalks to get awkwardly caught on. Also, honestly, this is super.
This map was this. Look at the layout of this map on the corner. It almost looks like it was made by AI. It's so it's so
AI generated Mario tracks
I wouldn't
in
be
my
surprised.
Mario Kart game.
I'm sorry that was like a hot joke, but holy shit, it just looks like it looks so bad.
subjective,
I hate this
but I'm
level.
really not a big fan on the lighting, or more specifically,
This is one of the
death
fucking
style of
app,
this map.
too.
It just makes everything look cold
Yep.
and depressing. Maybe that's more accurate, but this is Mario.
The
And
Nintendo
likewise,
Ninjas are gonna be at my
shouldn't the
door.
idea behind these tracks based on real-world locations be to pay respects and be flattering to the places in question? Rome Avanti is sort of similar in that I thought I liked this one a lot more until I replayed it again recently. To Rome's credit, there's a lot more creativity and interesting set pieces, and the track certainly looks nicer, but it is similar to London in that this feels less like a race course and more like a city model where you're constantly being pulled left and right by forcibly placed red arrows. Berlin Byways refer to exhibits A
I don't know what they were thinking.
3DS Rainbow Road. Okay, this is an awesome layout, but there's something I said way back when this first dropped and I wanted to reiterate because I'm salty as fuck about it. I said I didn't like the new colors. I thought the lighting was too dark and drab, and more importantly, the Rainbow Road was no longer a vivid rainbow. It was just like blue. Had a couple of y'all just say I was colorblind, so here you go. Here is a side-by-side comparison to how vivid it looks in 7 to how it looks in 8. Really, you don't see any differences compared to the original. The one in 8 doesn't look any more blue.
I mean,
feel
obvious
like I'm literally
differences,
living
but-
inside that office meme template with the girl being like,
They're the same.
I think it looks great.
Wave 4. No notes on Wave 4. Good job, Fruit and Boomerang Cup. Wave 5, Athens Dash is a map
Fruit
I
and Boomerang
wish I
Cup.
liked. Conceptually
I
cool,
admit, that's a
driving
weird
through a
choice.
bunch of ruins is a sick foundation for a track. Plus, it's a tour track that doesn't take place in a city, so that's pretty neat. But I don't think there's a single other track in 8 that makes it more apparent that it was clearly designed with Mario Kart Tour in mind. AKA, the game where you can never get caught on anything since it always automatically maneuvers you around obstacles. There's the obvious offenders like these pillars that are placed directly after
every
this
Mario
jump,
Kart Tour
just
level is
waiting for you to run
bad.
into them. I mean, you can't maneuver
Yeah.
much in midair, so if you just happen to take a jump at the wrong angle, you're boned. But then there's also jumps like this that will literally just
This-
throw you straight into a wall.
the mobile
And of course,
app
the map
levels are
just looks bad.
AI
Not from an
generated.
artistic standpoint, but definitely from a technical one. I don't know if these people still exist, but at launch, there was a very vocal group of defenders that would brush off visual critiques as people looking for things to complain about. But really, just look at this jump right here. It seems like the idea was to make a money shot, if you will, putting the track out of frame to give you a better look at that vista. But then you actually look at the horizon, and it's just a bunch of completely untextured building blocks. This is usually the part where some defenders say that
It's
It looks so good. I want to eat those.
they look like little cake houses or like gingerbread houses or whatever. But I think the mobile app was just AI generated.
that critiquing the background is nitpicking because you're supposed to be paying attention to what's ahead on the course. But what course? This is literally taking up more than half the screen. What was the point of angling the camera in this way and moving the course out of frame if you weren't supposed to look at the horizon? When these people get to this point of the
Monopoly
track, do
looking
they just see
houses.
this? You would have to try to not see the background here. The half pipes are also pretty pointless.
I'm sorry. That was a really good joke. So
Yeah,
funny.
I'm gonna take the Browns Edition Street. Don't worry about me. We're gonna make it work.
I'm putting a hotel in the Mediterranean street.
But to be fair,
wanna see
that's
the
sort of
neighborhood
an issue
complain.
most of the booster course tracks have. Then there was this
I'm
weird
dying.
thing. I kind of just wanted to show it off. Honestly, I think the only saving grace for me is that I really do like the creativity on display here. There are some fun ideas.
Broken.
It's just massively unpolished. But yeah,
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
that's it right there. The knowledge that if they were to remake this with more refined design, it would likely be one of the better tracks. That alone makes me not hate this one entirely. Los Angeles Labs, I wrote it down here as a contender, so I think I wanted my future self to
Los
elaborate.
Angeles
That being
Labs.
said, I don't
They have LA in here. Where are the streets? Where's the hood? Where's like the dirty side of LA? They should have just actually put the real. They should have made it look realistic. That would have been more interesting.
Motherfucker, he's my tattoo parlor. You don't know me. I'm Nintendo DS Mario.
No. Oh my god, thank you, Sark, for the raid. I appreciate it so much. I hope you had a wonderful time on your stream. Let me give you a shout out.
I don't think this one is that bad. I mean, yeah, the half pipes are pointless, and I don't know why they included an oil rig to show off LA. Sort of an unflattering and more notably ugly thing to throw in. But the actual track layout here is decent enough. Sunset Wilds,
Where's the content
man,
house?
everyone hated this one when it dropped. So the big gimmick
Where's the
with the original
homeless
version
toads?
on Game Boy and of course
Homeless toads in the streets doing shot throwing at random items.
No.
Oh my gosh. Ay, yo, muchas gracias.
First, the explanation of the track's name to begin with is that as the race reached its end, it would go from sunset to nightfall. A cool effect, and one that was even kept for the tour version, not here in 8. The sun stays out start to finish, spitting on the original intent. Also, I just realized I lied about saying everyone hated this at launch, because now I remember there were definitely people defending this omission by saying the effect was not possible to recreate in 8's engine, a claim that was pretty quickly disproven by the fans, I might add. This version of the track is also missing the TPs you could run into that would unleash an angry Shy Guy. And much like Sky Garden, the layout has been simplified, removing a few turns. A little disrespectful, but I'm still more offended by the new Sky Garden. Although that might just be because I prefer that map in general. I already briefly talked about what was wrong with this new version of Rosalina's Ice World earlier in this video,
He's flaming the hell out of all the DLC levels. That's okay.
All-time favorite of mine and Wii, but it suffers from many of the issues a lot of these new Booster Course tracks suffer from. Pointless half pipes, really bad camera angles. I mean, like, really bad camera angles. An underwater and anti-grav segment for the sloppiest wheels possible. Also, since it's underwater, there's no water current that lets you pick up some speed like there was in Wii. Might seem small, but the water stream and the electricity bars you had to dodge added a lot to the original. Some weird collisions like this, and overall, just a general lack of polish. But
that happened to me.
So
This is the I think this is the one that I went like 12th place or something, or I don't know. I did so bad on that one because I was just hitting. I don't remember. Haven't played the DLC level so much, and then sometimes they're just so weird. Please get some red. Oh, sorry. I appreciate the raid. Thank you.
Which is the worst in the Booster Course Pass?
Which is the worst?
I don't know. I just like every track I listed off for completely different reasons. Okay, I know I said I was only picking one track out of all of the Booster Course Pass, but fuck it. I'm cheating again. We're going one track per wave because I literally can't decide otherwise.
There's
Wave 1's worst track is Sky Garden because I honestly think it spits in the face of the original layout, and I think the new one isn't particularly interesting. Wave 2's worst has got to be Sky High Sunday for a plethora of reasons I listed off earlier. London Loop for Wave 3. Again, not until playing it did I really realize how bad and forced the layout was.
Bad.
Wave 4. Wait, I didn't talk about any of these. I really do think that Wave 4 was overall the best wave that we got. I would probably say that Amsterdam Drift is the worst since it falls victim to being a map where you feel like you're being forcibly guided by red arrows opposed to anything more coherent. But even then, this track isn't that bad.
It's so
Wave
bad.
5. Jesus, I talked about 4 of these. Damn, I hated Wave 5 or some. Athens is unpolished, Sunset Wilds is lazy and disrespectful, and Koopa Cape has many small changes that I think make it worse than the original on Wii. Athens and Koopa Cape upset me more for not living up to their full potential, but trying to be objective, I would say that Sunset Wilds is the worst for simplifying the layouts and removing key track features, most notably the sunset transition.
Actually,
and
no.
finally, Wave 6. I talked about it during the Mario Kart 7 segment, but the worst here has got to be Rosalina's Ice World, which was a cool, track originally, but remade here with worse colors and bad camera angles. Truth be told, this is another one that isn't awful, it's just the weakest of Wave 6, really. So there's the worst of each wave. Don't ask me which one is the worst of the entire DLC because I seriously couldn't pick one. If you think the decision is easier than I'm making it out to be, then by all means, say what you think it is in the comments. And the first person to have absolutely no one disagree with them gets a Switch too, when they go to the store and buy one for full price. As I reach the end of this video, Nintendo actually showed off the newest in the series, which will be called Mario Kart World.
So what do you think overall about this, the bad takes video? A lot of fair points or unfair?
It was 50-50 with me. I think sometimes he brought up something pretty good, and then sometimes it was like a blatant skill issue moment where he didn't like
Yeah.
obviously didn't know how to play the track. So like
Very much, very much. Also, there's a sign that says fried chicken right here in the new Mario Kart. I can't wait to eat at Yoshi's Burger.
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be so hungry. Like, oh.
At the time that this video was
Yeah, I
out,
guess they like
will
Ninja
have had
Highway.
a full direct just
They like
to
Ninja
highlight the
Highway.
game. I gotta say, I'm pretty hyped. Mostly the play as a cow.
Yo, cow,
It
moo!
would appear
Yeah.
the tracks mentioned in this very video will be returning. Wario Stadium from 64 and Sky High Sunday, both of which seeing some notable changes. Wario Stadium is unfortunately yet again another victim to track simplification, although maybe that's actually an upgrade because they will no longer take 5 minutes to complete a single race. Modern Mario Kart seems to have an aversion to just making longer tracks with 2 laps opposed to 3, so if all the tracks must really be 3 laps, then I think that trimming the fat was a good move there. As for Sky High Sunday, there appears to be this new grinding mechanic that makes those rails you awkwardly clip through in the past now something that you can grind on Tony Hawk style. There's more routes to take, new obstacles to dodge. Genuinely, it looks like a solid update. Still not huge on the tracks where you're majorly driving straight the whole time, especially since, you know, snaking is no longer a thing, but I might just have to suck it up honestly, because especially if the whole World Tour thing the new game has going on, you know, if driving from track to track for the Grand Prix, I get the impression that drifting is probably going to be less emphasized than ever before, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic. I never even declared an all-time
That's my
worst now that
concern.
we've gone through all the games.
No drift?
Honestly, out of everything, I think the absolute worst
no
course in the
drift?
series is DS's version of Baby
No
Park.
bitches? No, I think
No,
this.
bitches.
No, that's all they said. That the drifting is gonna take less relevancy on the new Mario Kart. That it's a possibility because of how the levels are being like advertised, like jumping and hopping on the walls. It's gonna be like the new gimmick. It's almost gonna feel like an adventure game less of a Mario Kart game, which is my concern. It's gonna be fun, but it's just gonna feel way different. I don't know.
I'm intrigued, but again,
Yeah.
I'm probably not gonna play it for for another year.
Yeah, until you get your hands on a very affordable Nintendo Switch 2, right, chat?
Yeah, that's what we're all doing, right? Right?
I still think that Baby
Mortal
Park
Kombat
is great in
Kart,
Double Dash for
imagine.
the reasons I've already outlined in this
Actually
video,
wanted them
but
to have,
the
like,
version in Mario
different
Kart
characters
DS is
other than
so
Mario enemies.
boring. Again, Baby Park is a track that lives and dies by said game's item meta, and the item meta in DS is not great. Outside the abundance of blue shells, DS might have the most tame feeling item play of all the games. That being said, it should be noted that DS is a more mechanically involved Mario Kart than most, especially since it was the
looks
last
so
game of
goofy.
snaking. So in most cases, a de-emphasized item meta doesn't really matter since it's not where the heart of the game lies, but it's also why the track had no right to return in DS of all games. Apologies, it's been like 50 years since my last upload. I hope to share something special I've been cooking up very soon with you all, but until then, thank you so much for watching, and perhaps we'll meet again shortly with the upcoming release of Mario Kart World. But until next time, have a good one.
I think overall, I think overall, personally, the video, it's not a bad video, but there's like some ragey moments that it's like, oh, come on, this is skill issue. That's just my pet peeve for this one.
Yeah. It's not like some things are objective and it's agreeable. Other things it's like, okay, it's like you just don't like it and you're bad at it, and that's not objective.
No! Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, Chad, I'm gonna put the video in the chat as well. At least give it a check out as well. No hate. I'm not gonna be a hater on the comment section of this person, but big credits to them as well. You will? Okay, I'll be the hater. Okay, I may be the hater as well. No, I'm kidding. No, it was a good video overall. But you know, the skill issue.